Near Vancouver, British Columbia, scientists are searching for the precise moment when just such a commitment occurs. The commitment for human language. Infants are born with the flexibility to learn any language. The obscure Indian dialect spoken here is helping psychologist Janet Worker discover when babies lose that potential, when in fact they begin to master a single language.
The Thompson or Ntlakapan language is useful to me because it has a set of consonants that are not used in English and that English speakers cannot discriminate between.
Worker records these consonant sounds to pinpoint the critical period of development, the point when babies exposed to English can no longer discriminate among Indian sounds.
So first off, what I would like you to do is help me think of some words that are used in the Thompson language that differ in only a single sound.
Like kachem and kachem.
Oh boy, those sound the same to me. Now, can you say those again?
Kachem, that's frying.
Okay.
And kachem, to secure, maybe you secure your pack or whatever.
Okay, can you say this word, this one I've written down here, which means to fry, and then pronounce the first consonant and vowel 3 times, very slowly.
Kachem. And then the other word is kachem. That's to secure. Kachem. K. 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 K.
We teach the baby to turn her head when the sound changes. In testing, we can then tell if the baby can hear the sound change because she turns her head in anticipation of the toys coming on. The toys then serve as a reward for a correct head turn.
This 8-month-old baby has no trouble anticipating the appearance of the toys. She turns when she hears the sound change. This baby is a year old. For him, the difference in sounds no longer exists. He only turns after the toys have appeared.
There's a reorganization in speech perception across the first year of life so that the young infant is born ready to learn any human language. And experience then functions to narrow that universal set of abilities, that universal discriminatory ability to be specific to the particular language that the baby is learning.
What do you say? Oh, good. Say it again.
So the mouse whiskers may offer an explanation for what happens in humans. Exposure to the environment commits some neurons to forming useful networks. We become better at one language as we lose the ability to perceive others. The same process occurs in other areas of mind as well.
Between 18 and 24 months, I believe the child, for the first time, all children with a good brain, become aware that they have intentions, that they have feelings, that they can act. It's an insight very much like that famous insight of Helen Keller when she realized that the word water applied to that experience. That's an aha experience, which I think requires the interaction of the brain, and of course living in the world. The child has to have interactions with people. But all the interactions in the world won't lead to the sense of self until you're in the middle of the second year because the brain is not yet mature.
Look, Elizabeth. Who's that? Who's that?
The developing sense of self can be seen in this ingenious experiment known as the Rouge test. The test's simplicity itself requires a dab of rouge and a mirror.
What's that?
A child 3 months old with rouge on her nose looking at her own reflection won't touch her nose because she doesn't recognize that the face in the mirror belongs to her. Neither will a child 9 or 10 months old.
Poor baby. Kiss the baby. Oh, that's nice.
But by 18 or 20 months, because the sense of self has matured, a child touches her nose.
There are other signs. The child will begin to use the word I and me and my, and it won't do that before. In a wonderful demonstration by Laura Petito, who's at McGill, deaf children of deaf parents who are learning to communicate by sign language, they will make the sign for I at the same time as a hearing child will begin to touch its nose. That's a marvelous discovery, suggesting there's a timetable here.
Did you find another baby?
The second milestone, which I believe is as important, is a moral sense.
A baby.
Now children are bothered if they see something that's flawed, a broken doll, a broken car, paint that's peeling from a table that shouldn't have paint peeling. Child shows concern. It'll say broken, dirty, bad, or take the doll to the mother, implying that something is wrong.
Oh, baby.
No child 12 months old will do that. And I'm suggesting that's because the child now has a primitive understanding that there is an integrity to objects, and that if the integrity is violated, somebody or some living thing has done something wrong. So a moral sense is one of the most profound accomplishments, and we should view it as just as we view singing and speaking and walking. It is a maturational milestone that will be acquired by every child as long as they live in a world of human beings.
A sense of self and a moral sense, two qualities of mind programmed by biology that emerge during development. From them, other aspects of a child's behavior fall into place.
You have to give her the ball now. It's her turn.
No.
Ricky, give it to her.
The terrible twos, for instance, can no longer be thought of as stubbornness, but as a time when a child is trying to establish the difference between right and wrong. It's also a time when the relationship between thought, or cognition, and emotions becomes clear.
19th century theorists, and especially Freud's writings, made emotions the basis for cognitive development. Freud said the id came first, and then the ego, which represented thought and logic, followed as a result of the resolution of conflict. And 19th century theorists also wanted to make emotions primary and thought as a necessary coping device to deal with conflict. But what we've said here today is quite the opposite, that the maturation of the brain is accompanied by the emergence of cognitive competences. For example, you can't show stranger anxiety or fear over your mother leaving until you are cognitively mature enough to remember the past. You can't experience the emotion of guilt until you're mature enough to recognize that you could have done otherwise when you hurt that child. So what's very new is the fact that many of the profound emotions we experience and the conflicts we experience wait upon cognitive advances.
The years 2 to 6. The child's horizons fall away. Vocabulary is exploding. Knowledge increases exponentially. A social self emerges. It's a time for building the foundations of formal education, a time for discovering just what a child's real potential is.
I think that the basic ingredients really are tremendous respect for the integrity of each child, a belief that each child has very special qualities and that those qualities will be expressed under the appropriate kinds of conditions. And that teaching doesn't mean directing or imposing. It really means opening up and liberating.
Let's put a card space there. You want to point all card space arrows toward cards. Okay.
We all live by rules, and when a child plays a game, or when a child invents a game, it's a way of trying to see what the rules are and how far one can go in one direction or another, and in general to come to some kind of understanding of what rules are and how we live by them.
A ring card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No! You're in the stop. You mistake. I'm here. Although you're in the stop zone, so you have to stay there. If it just flops down to there, you go one step. So if it just bounces.
There is no formula. There is no easy way to do this. There is no single way to do it. And the gift of teaching and the gift of parenting is one that has to be rediscovered with each child.
Parenting, however, is really just a part of a child's environment. It meshes with the genes to sculpt the mind. In some cases, a well-tuned environment and a child's innate potential can lead to something extraordinary.